What are today's top talent leaders doing to be different? That's the question we set out to answer at the Recruiting Innovation Summit. For 2 days, we podcasted live at the Chatterworks booth to ask the question, what are you doing different? This is the Talent Shift.
Susan, would you please introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Susan LaMotte. I'm the founder and CEO of exaqueo.
Exaqueo. Spell that for the audience.
exaqueo.
That's exactly how it sounds.
It is exactly
It's phonetic.
how it sounds.
That's
And what
nice.
do you do? Tell us what you do.
Yeah.
So exaqueo is an employer brand and experience consulting firm, and we help our clients create better relationships with their candidates and their employees so that they can recruit and retain talent that'll thrive in the organization rather than just push them through a funnel and an employment experience. They actually build better relationships because they're finding places that make sense that they want to be and that the organization wants them to.
Got to ask you about something. So first of all, you and I met 150 years ago.
I look really, really good for 175 years old.
You do. I meant to
Just
say
for
that.
the record.
Just for the record. I think you were still at Marriott at the time because y'all had gamified some of the, I think it's simulation based. And I was fascinated, just absolutely fascinated by the whole bit because I don't think anyone had done that. And y'all did it, you did it. And I think we might have met at Recruit DC or something like that. But and then you left that to then create your own company to help brands like Marriott and others, a whole bunch of others. So what's the hardest thing about consulting with, as an outsider, as consulting with people that are in the inside?
I think there's two things. One is building the trust in the relationships, right? Consulting as a profession is often made fun of, right? It's like we're hiring people just to give the answers that come from somebody else's mouth. And so you really have to prove that you're adding value and you have to be able to build these relationships where people have trust in you. For us, it was also differentiating ourselves because we compete against a lot of agencies. In fact, this week we just won an Agency of the Year award, which is great. But we're actually not an agency.
Right.
We're a consulting firm, and they're really different.
100%.
And
Well,
so
one's
that's
going to
part
do
of
the
key.
work and the other is going to stop at the consulting and here's how you need to do it, right?
Yes and no. Yes and no. We see, the traditional advertising agency was created to be your agent, to do things for you in the sense of we're going to either represent you in the media buy, right, and be your agent and go place those buys. Early days, it was newspapers. Or we're going to be your agent and actually build you assets, the physical thing. So it's a want and a need. For me, consulting is much more about the problem solving and not being so prescriptive on here's a solution. So, of course, like everybody else, we are building proposals and, building out scopes of work, but our scopes of work change a lot. And we do a lot of retainer work for that reason, because oftentimes you get into an organization and the problem to be solved is different than what they think it is. It also allows us to be honest and tell them that. That's where the trust comes in, to have that honest conversation around what your needs are.
Yeah, well, first of all, yes, especially for the internal people, because it's hard to use your political capital internally and say, yeah, all this is wrong. It's much easier when a consultant or an expert like Susan comes in and says, okay, here are the things that we definitely need to change, so that you can see them basically, I know the same thing. I would have said the same thing. I can't say
it's received differently.
Well, a lot of, especially as you get further in your career, it's harder for you to lay out your political capital because you got 2 kids in private school, 3 luxury cars.
You can make the payments.
Yeah, and it's like you're going into your CEO or your CMO,
very true. It's very true,
and telling them a truth gets harder and harder.
I think it's also about accountability too. Like what you're talking about, Ryan, in terms of the therapy session is true. And a lot of people use coaches for that.
Right.
For me, I think the difference between coaching and consulting is you're also holding your clients accountable because they've paid you for a thing. They're not just paying you, I'm a huge fan of therapy. I think everybody should be in therapy.
100%.
And, when you go to therapy for whatever it is, right, for your own mental health, for marriage therapy, parent-child, child psychologist, they're giving you guidance and then they're sending you off. And you do have to come back and talk about it. But if you don't do it, they don't necessarily have to hold you accountable. They start to pick apart why.
Right.
In the case of a consultant, your job is to make sure you are holding them accountable. We tell our clients all the time, we're here to reflect on you and your career. So it's not just about we're going to build you an employer brand. We recognize that what we're doing for you actually propels you to the next level,
Right.
or gets you attention, or the opposite could help you waste that political capital. So that's how I like to look at it.
That's interesting because I think a lot of people, me included, think of it as third. Like, you're going to come in, you're going to check my box, I'm going to throw my ideas at you, you're going to give me the right or wrong, but holding me accountable for it. I never really looked at it that way. And I probably should.
Yeah.
Because that's how.
Well, that's what good consultants do.
And that's what you're paying for.
That's right.
Really, it's what you're paying for. All right. So we got a crowd coming in now. They're all going to stare at you.
Great.
Like you're a caged animal.
Great.
Yeah. Ryan and I do a news show called The Barf. And last week we had a stat from JobSync. It blew my mind. And it was 11% of applicants are coming through career sites. And I'm like, I thought I read it wrong. So I reached out to them and they're like, no, that's accurate. That's what's happening. It's either the brokenness or, whatever. There's a lot of things that could contribute to that. And then I asked them, I said, okay, look at the data again for me and look at mobile versus, web. Because I believe the 11% is web. Mm-hmm. There's no mobile traffic. And they went back and looked at it and it was like 9%. So it wasn't all of it, but it was a majority of it. Mm-hmm. So that's just one report. And, I love the guys, the people at JobSync. So I trust that they did it. What do you think about career sites and applicants of today, especially mobile, what's your advice or, what's your take on it?
Yeah, I think for me, instead of talking specifically about the career site, it's more about what approach are we getting? Or let me say this again, what approach are we using to actually build a relationship with the candidate? And the challenge, and this is where I'll date myself, if you look all the way back to when we shifted technologically that first round, right? And we started building ATSs, we did so to automate the process, not for the candidate.
Right.
We did it because the government, particularly in the U.S. at the time, was saying, hey, you've got to track your EEO data.
Yeah.
And companies were saying, oh my gosh, these spreadsheets are rife with human error and they're arduous. You've taken a lot of time. And so somebody smart thought, hey, let's automate this, right? And so the challenge for me when you ask a question about career sites is that actual decision and that wave of technological innovation completely changed our entire industry to be about the company and not about the candidate. And so we've spent 25 years talking about why is candidate experience broken? Why aren't employee why aren't career sites working? Why do we need job boards? Why did all these job aggregators started? They started because no one was paying attention to what the candidate needed. So for me, that's the evolution of the career site. Everybody needs quote unquote, as I do my air quotes, a career site because you need a face, you need a platform. Mm-hmm. But whether people use them or not is all about your strategy and how you build the relationship. If you're relying on Indeed or, any of the other sites and you're sending all your dollars there, that's how they're going to come to you.
Right.
If you're relying all on, your referrals, for example, or nepotism in the organization, whatever it might be, that's how you're going to get people.
Yeah. You said something that reminded me of the resume. So you said they may not use a career site, but you need to have them. You need to have a face. That's my thought on a resume. We've gone back and forth. Resume's dead. I don't know how the resume dies. I feel like my daughter's doing a resume now, and I feel like it's a waste of time. However, I also feel like you kind of need to have one, even if it doesn't matter. You still need to have them.
I think it goes back to our industry. We created this. Why does the resume exist, right?
For the employer.
Exactly. So when originally, before technology even played a role, you needed a piece of paper to say, here's something about me. So when you meet me for the first time, you're not asking the basic questions, even though plenty of interviewers still do. Walk me through your resume. And so our problem now as an industry is it's not that we need a resume and the word resume, but you need a way to concisely collect and collate all of your experience to tell a story. And then you need that story to be in a deliverable format. And for most organizations, the resume is the easiest deliverable. Why? Because legally in the US in particular and in other countries, you have to upload it. You have to have that on record. For a lot of the technologies like LinkedIn and others, right? They've translated that to your profile. You can apply with your profile. But that's the challenge. Even the ATS, so many of the applicant tracking systems still ask you to upload your resume or have that as a required field. So we're doing this to ourselves. But
self-inflicted wounds.
Yeah, and if your daughter is thinking about her audience, like in the creative world, right? Resumes were dead a long time ago. We were using portfolios.
Yeah.
But that's because the audience demanded that.
Right. Well, she won't even apply to a job that requires a resume. I mean, she's only 17, but she's got 3 jobs now. If she can't do it on her phone or can't just get a text back, she's not interested.
That's the trend we're seeing with tons of candidates. We do a lot of research. That's the hallmark of our differentiation. We do more research and deep dives into data than anybody else. And the reason we do that is because while the broad studies like you referenced are helpful indicators to point us in a direction, most companies are better served by getting their own data. And so I always cringe when I hear like 25% of all candidates. Stop right there. You are not hiring all candidates.
No, that's right.
So instead, go out and figure out who's your target audience. Who are you trying to hire? What are their needs? So to your daughter's point, this is why Gen Alpha and even Gen Beta, who are started being born in 2025, we're paying so much attention to them. Because if you're a futurist in your organization and you recognize X% of my workforce is going to be Gen Alpha, then I need to be doing deep dive research on Gen Alpha.
Well done.
And then correlate that with what geography are they in? Because you can't, again, group Gen Alpha all together. What part of the world, what jobs, Gen Alpha in tech versus Gen Alpha in creative jobs. That's where we really love to dig into the data.
All right. So I'm going to ask you a question. What are the best recruiters doing today to differentiate themselves?
It's all about the relationship. So I've been studying for the past 5 to 10 years, the idea of employment. And we've always treated employment as a contract, this transaction. And in social psychology, there's 2 kinds of relationships. One is the transactional relationship and one is a communal relationship. Transactional relationship is like this morning, I went and bought my Starbucks, asked for almond milk. If that Starbucks said, I'm out of almond milk and that's all I wanted, I would have said, thanks, you guys are great, but I'm moving on to, another place to get my coffee. That's a transaction. I have a need, you have a benefit, we trade it. We've always treated employment like that. And when you treat something like that, they behave that way.
Right.
So when you don't give me what I want, my pay, anything else, I walk away.
Right.
The other side of the coin is the communal relationship. That's like marriage. That's my husband knows I'm not a morning person. So he'll make me coffee in the morning and bring it to me while I'm getting ready. There's nothing in it for him. He just knows that for us, well, maybe my attitude, but he knows for us to have a successful marriage.
He's a smart man.
We've got to work together.
I know why I get coffee in the morning.
Right. He knows that I need to be on my game to get done everything that I need to.
Right.
And so it's not a specific need he has. And so I am positing that if we treated employment more like a relationship and treated it less like a transaction,
right?
But everything that we do is turned employment into transaction. So back to your question, Ryan, what are the best recruiters doing right now? They're treating it like a relationship. They're saying, tell me about you. What do you need out of your next employment experience? Here's what we have. Here's what kind of relationship we're looking for. And then saying like, this isn't going to work and giving the feedback why, right? Think about people you've dated in your life before you ended up with a significant other, your spouse or your partner.
Thank you.
It's not they weren't great people.
I appreciate it.
It's just you weren't a fit.
I feel like the relationship recruiter has been since day one. And for whatever reason, they just can't be mastered. Like, why can't we master a relationship?
Because I think, like, in that situation with Susan's husband, he's read her. Like, he understands her, and he wants her to be happy. I don't think that the reason that HR and recruiting TA in general is they don't care about the happiness.
They're doing it for the company.
That's right.
Not for the candidate.
And we've said several different times that, are you an agent for the company or are you an agent for the candidate?
Yeah.
And in the case for HR, are you an employee advocate or are you an advocate for the company? Yeah. And by and large, both positions are agents for the company.
Yeah.
So they act
We
like
should
that.
ask that question today to recruiters. Are you an agent for the company? Or are you an agent for the candidate? See what they
Or
say.
are you an agent for both? Because in a successful relationship, think about the parent-child relationship. It doesn't have to just be marriage.
Right.
Successful relationships think about all the parties in that relationship and what's best for both of them.
Right.
So if you ask me, I've got a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old. My 7-year-old has ADHD. And if you ask someone, what's the best solution for your child in the classroom, for example, it's going to depend on the teacher. So you have to think about both pieces of the relationship. I also think human beings are complex. We're complicated individuals. And so you also can't look at it singularly in the sense of what does the typical recruiter do? I started my career as a recruiter. You're phone screening all day long and you're just looking for the match to the job to get them to the next round. Because you got to put people in front of your hiring manager that are going to reflect well on you. You're not thinking about the complexity of that human.
Right.
So digging into questions of tell me about you, your life, your whole self to figure out, especially now with everybody returning back to the office in white collar jobs, is the physical space where we are, is that going to work for you and your family? Why or why not? Let's dig into it. We don't think about it that way. It's transactional.
Yeah.
Last question is, of course, about AI. It's like a drinking game at this point. You have to talk about it. But we're really kind of interested in your take on, especially your customers without names and stuff like that. But that AI and how it's either influencing in a good way, positive way, candidates, recruiters, hiring managers, et cetera. Like, is AI, and again, it's a snapshot. It'll be different in 6 months from now. But at what you're seeing right now, what does it look like? What are you hearing from your clients?
We're hearing two things. There's either a scramble, the moment of, oh no, we have to use AI. Everybody's using it. And right, it's either the FOMO or the keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah.
How are we using it? Do all our tools have it? Scrambling to vendors, in figuring out, can they solve my problem? Can technology solve my problem? We all know technology does not solve problems. Technology helps to support and enable strategic solutions. So that's one camp. The other camp is the embedded camp. It's the camp that's saying, we already knew about it. We're educating people about it. We're being strategic. We're thinking about how to embed it into our organizations where it makes most sense. It's not the fear-based. It's that proactive strategic piece. Somebody much smarter than me, a friend of mine, Nicholas Tolson, he does not work in the HR recruiting space, but he wrote the other day and said, very soon AI is going to be like the internet, where you don't even say, are you using AI? Right? When you go to look up something, it's just assumed, right? It's just part of our lives. It's a thread thing. So if I'm looking for, a restaurant in, whatever city I'm in, I don't say, I'm going to go to the internet and Google the restaurant. I just pick up my phone and say, hey, I'm going to go search to see what reservations are available. Yeah. And so I think the people in this latter camp that are being strategic and smart already know this. And so they're already making that assumption. And so they're learning how to build their organizations with that assumption in mind.
I love it. I lied.
So then, could you stand on this side?
You have another question.
I said that was the last question. The last question is technically, you're at Recruiting Innovation Summit for a reason. What do you want to get out of the conference?
For me, there's a couple of things. One, I've been in this space a really long time, over 25 years. And I think I was on the road for a while, right? Especially when I was at Marriott and the Ritz-Carlton, lots of conferences. And then when I started exaqueo, you're focused on your clients and you're with your clients. And so coming full circle, it's really important that as a leader, I'm stepping back and seeing what's happening in the industry and meeting folks face to face, especially if I'm trying to shift the dialogue from employment as a transaction to employment as a relationship. And I want to really know, can people take that concept, understand it, and leverage it, which is, now that we're leaning so heavily on technology, it's more important than it's ever been.
And you've got a great team.
Thank you. My team is amazing, best in the business.
100%.
And what's really interesting about our team is they're actually all from in-house. So we don't hire folks.
I thought you were going to say all female. That's funny.
Nope. We've got a good diverse team, but we hire people that have been in-house, because to go back to our conversation around consulting, you need to have experienced
100%.
the politics, the stakeholders, understand how political capital works, and I think that's a big part of the success.
Drops mic, walks off stage.